Alrighty, welcome to Tuesday, kind of mid-morning-ish. Got a picture of one of my favorite people up here. I don't know Judd Hambrick, but I got to tell you, I mean, what a TV name. That's back. He might have changed his name. I don't even know, man, because Hambrick is just some serious TV anchor name. I remember that name, actually. This goes way back. Dennis Richmond, of course, a very good friend of mine who had a lot to do with every success I've had at Channel 2. And had a lot to do with the culture of Channel 2. Like not just a little, but a lot. I mean, his presence in the newsroom was like no other. And I know it sounds like I'm kissing ass a little bit because he was like 6'3" and 210 and cut like frickin' Arnold Schwarzenegger. But he was one of the kindest, nicest, most professional people I've ever worked with. And I learned a lot from Dennis. A lot. He'd pull me aside. He'd pull me aside if I was not doing it right or doing it good or whatever. But he was, as a young guy growing up in the business, you couldn't have asked for a better guy. And I don't know, you'd probably be hard pressed to have anybody or hear anything. I think I've never heard anything bad about Dennis. I mean, he was tough, but in terms of just the way he was, he and we meshed pretty good. This is my favorite shots of his, because he was doing this back when they said action news, right? And I think they thought action news meant you got to do something, man. You just can't read. And so they hung him over the side of a building like 101 Market or something and had him do like a window cleaner job. Now, when he was a young man, he was down I can't remember if he was in where in the South he was, but he was back east in the sort of southeast. He was in the Army. So he jumped out of airplanes. So he was kind of, okay, I can do this. And this picture I love of him only because he's hairing out right now. Like I look at his knuckles and stuff. And I used to, when I'd see it, we had a picture of it in the newsroom. And every time I'd go by with him, I'd make fun of him. I go, because it's the only time I've ever seen him scared. And who wouldn't be, right? I mean, he's hanging over the thing. So, and this was back in the day, old school stuff. I can't remember. I should know this woman's name. I want to say it's Rita Shannon. But there's Dennis in his early days. And Dennis started out at the bottom. He started out at Channel 2. He was kind of like a typist, and he was writing news and whatever. And then this was kind of a time when affirmative action was a good thing. It still is a good thing, but where he was sent off to Columbia and he got his journalism degree. And I can't remember if Channel 2 did it or somebody, but then he came back and assumed the role. So he was nuts to bolts. Is it nuts to bolts, fruit to nuts? I don't know, but he was Channel 2 in a nutshell. And and there's Elaine too. And Elaine was awesome. I only worked with her for a few years, but she'd come into the news meetings and she'd be loaded for bear, man, because she was under a lot of pressure. I mean, Dennis was, he was tough. I would say they weren't horribly super close, but they worked well together. He basically was the driving force, but she was the motor, or he was the motor. She was sort of the gas, because she would come into every news meeting. I can remember this, and she'd have stacks of paper. We used to have big news meetings before the evening newscast, and they were, editorial type meetings. And Elaine would show up, man, and she'd be loaded for bear. Like she'd have a lot of stuff, and a lot of the stuff was good. A lot of the news stories that she'd come up with. So these two were quite the couple. Of course, things changed around. Elaine left, and then Leslie came in. Leslie was a whole nother force. Dennis being Dennis, and then there's Mark. I mean, so I get thrust into this world of legends, right? And I'm a dude who's living in my van at the beach. And, I think Dennis, he could have snuffed me out if he didn't like me, but he kind of kept me around, which was awesome. And I say he kept me around. I mean, the viewers did too, but he Dennis, man. So anyway, that was a good time. And then let me move this. That's Julie. Of course, Dennis, I think to this day, Julie is probably was Dennis's favorite co-anchor. They worked really well together. And Julie would have the same stories I have about how he shaped her and myself. We both learned from Dennis Richmond about what news should be and what news shouldn't be. And that we still, especially I see Julie as an anchor, she carries this on in the newscast. She doesn't sit quietly if she doesn't like a story or doesn't feel it's correct. And Mike Muebuck's awesome too. But Mike knew Dennis really well. So the new anchors, I'm with Mike and Julie now, and Jason Applebaum and myself, and we all kind of grew up around Dennis. So it's kind of neat that we're kind of carrying forward, or trying to carry forward what he put together. So I do love this man. I can't get enough of it. I miss him. He's up in the north now. He's got a lives on a golf course. He likes to golf. He is awesome, awesome. I hope you can sense how much I revere him as a human being and as a newscaster. He was a newscaster, an anchor man. He's what they're supposed to be. Okay, so that's a lot of talk, but I don't know what. Right? I'm in a t-shirt. I'm drinking coffee, and this is how I feel this morning. And I just every time I see him or think about him, I think how fortunate I am to have my life to rub up against his. Not just from the standpoint of learning about news, and he was a hard ass, like I said, but learning about news. But I learned a lot about what it's like to be an African American male. I mean, he would talk to me. He'd go, "Listen, dude, you don't get it. You don't get it." And he was absolutely right. I didn't get it, and he taught me a lot. I learned a lot, and I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to know him because I grew up in paradise. We just didn't have diversity where I grew up, and so I didn't understand anything. And now I feel like I kind of understand. I could, I probably understand better than I do now. But anyway, so enough of that. Love Dennis Richmond. Love this visible satellite map. Why? Because this is the day. You can wake up this morning. You can see, let me move this picture here. You can see the fog down around Catalina, Santa Cruz Islands. You see snow. I'm not going to point it out. You see the snow in the mountains. You see what's going on. So this visible satellite image is something I'd like you to use, right? This is COD, College of DuPage, pardon me. And just if you can direct message me if you want on how to bookmark it. I think I have this on my links, but you can do your own weather. You don't need me to go, oh, it's gonna be mostly sunny today and it's not raining anywhere in the state and there's a bunch of snow in the mountains, and so on and so forth. So as we move, I don't know how I did that. Oh, I'm fast forwarding it. Okay, so let's see if I go here. Okay, so now we're back to today. That was today as well, but we're in a situation where we've got some pretty strong winds, gale force winds along the coast. And if you look here, check this out. This bad boy, that's just off of Point Reyes. That's gusting to 40 miles an hour. Those barbs, that's 2 barbs is 10, 20 knots. Each long one is 10 knots, so 20 knots, plus a half of one is 5 knots. So 25 knots is sustained wind out of the northwest. There's a wind advisory that'll go into effect in the Central Valley. Like I mentioned before, hay fever, pretty nasty this time of year. And that has to do a lot with the fact that we've got these winds that are blowing from land to sea or from north to northwest. So we're getting more of an overland trajectory. So it's grabbing all the junk, all the even car stuff, even industrial stuff, but also pollens. And of course, we are in prime pollen season. There's the wind advisory that'll go into effect. You kind of see it picks up now, but this is the National Weather Service page. And then along the coast, those purples, if you look over here, you can see the what's they're coded, and you can click on them and it'll say, okay, well, let's do it. Let's click on here. Oh, can I do it? No, I can't because I'm on there. Oh, let's just. Well, anyway, you can click on stuff and it'll give you specifics and wind speeds and whatever. But that's the general overview. So what's going on today? It's windy and you've got a lot of pollen out there. Is it going to rain? Doesn't seem like it is. Let's take a look at the model. This is College of DuPage again. I kind of bounce around from different websites to different websites. I mean, it's what I do every morning. So, right, well, let's do it together. The isobars here, right, those represent the closeness of those lines. When they get close together, it's windy or breezy. And the closer they get together, the breezier they get. They separate a little bit, the gradient becomes less. And it's like if you were ever a climber and you were climbing up on a ridge, and you had your map and you had a contour map, and the contours would show where the ridge is or where the valley is. Well, that's the same thing. This shows you the steeper, the closer together the contours, the closer together the isobars, the stronger the winds, the steeper the pitch. So I think that makes sense. So here, we get a little closer here. This is this afternoon. Look at those pinching up pretty good up around Point Reyes. And then they bend a little bit, but they keep coming at us, right? So it's pretty breezy this whole week. Here we are into Thursday. Something tweaks to the north. That increases. See how it increases see the isobars? Say right there, they're kind of loose. And then when that goes by, they bunch up again. It's real subtle, but that Northern California gets a pretty good bunch up. And then another system tweaks by, but this one detaches from the jet stream and drops down. This is the fly in the ointment. Probably should have led with this instead of Dennis, because I mean I shouldn't leave with Dennis, but this is the system that's going to be getting talked about a lot this week, and this is Saturday morning, and that's the Bay Area, Northern California, and that's Saturday afternoon, and that's Sunday, or pardon me, that's Saturday afternoon, and now we're into Sunday morning. So right now, Saturday looks a little sketch in terms of the potential for showers. We can take a look around the country just because it's been so nasty. It's getting better, but there's still the potential in the southeast. You see where these areas of green are, where there's the potential for severe weather. And again, they had 120, 140, I think more than that, tornadoes touching down, and a lot of them caught on video. So we're definitely into a spring pattern when you start seeing these storms lining up for the severe weather. So that's it. Looks like a nice week ahead. The real question mark, everything's going to stay status quo. The real question mark is going to be Saturday and Sunday. Right now, it looks like Saturday is going to kind of be wet from at least 9 o'clock on into Sunday morning. And Sunday turns out to be a better day. It's a cutoff low. So all bets are off. The best thing to do is just go day by day. I'll try to keep you updated each day. And you can do this yourself. Go to my links. You can get some of these websites and just figure it out. It's awesome. And if you have any questions, just email me, or I don't know how you do it on YouTube, but just text me or something. Thanks for listening. See you back here probably tomorrow.